Okay, so let's move on now to Dan Gun. And let's have a look at the twin forearm block. So, tricky thing about the twin forearm block is, I guess, as fundamental movements go, we're kind of used to just blocking, forearm low block, punching, etc. up and down the hall. But this is probably a technique that gets sort of pushed to the side and is not challenged as a fundamental technique often enough. It's quite tricky to do. So it's really a combination of a forearm guarding block and a rising block. We call this twin forearm block, twin being two, so they're both working at the same time. So the thing to remember about twin forearm block is if we're going to the left, we need to cross slightly on the same side chest, so the left side of the chest if we're going left, and also if we're going to the right side of the chest. So if you think of it in the context of Dan Gun, if we think about a guarding block with a rising block attached, so it's really quite simple. So this technique is middle. This is what we refer to as the primary block, and this is what we refer to as the secondary block. So your arm, like a rising block, is about 7 centimeters from the head, and it's angled off at about 45 degrees. So there's not really an angle written, it's just kind of just tilted a little bit to its side. So be careful in the twin forearm block not to bring it too far to the front. So bring it off to the side. So defending against here and also defending against an attack from the front. Okay, so the primary block starts closest to your body or on the inside or whatever's easiest for you to remember. So we're crossing here, backward motion, and then we split down here in our L stance in the case of Dan Gun. Okay, so here we are here, twin forearm block, kind of like a guarding block, combined with a rising block. Okay, so very similar. So moving left, left side of the chest, moving to the right, right side of the chest. And the arms together and down this way. And looking where you're blocking. A little bit of hip movement. So this primary block here gets a little bit more power than this one here, the secondary block. And the same on the other side. This lower arm, there's a little bit of hip attached to it, so it just has a little bit more spark than this one here. Coming out of the twin forearm block rather, into the punch, another common error is not pulling to the hip. So when we're coming out of here, we straighten up and we punch from the hip. From here, back to the hip. Remembering, of course, to keep the forearm over the head. So not too far forward or too far back. Grandmaster Morano likes to do bang. So make sure you're protecting the head. The other really complicated thing initially for the yellow belt students, in fact, if I was honest, for a lot of students, regardless of rank, is continuous motion. So when we come out of the high punch in Dan Gun into the forearm low block, and then we perform rising block, that's known as continuous motion. That's known as continuous motion. So continuous motion consists of two full sine waves, down, up, down, down, up, down. Two sine waves, two techniques, one breath. So it's different to connecting, and we'll get onto that a little bit later. So from here, from your high punch, down, up, down, down, up, down. So a couple of things we need to remember is, from here, just to make it a little bit easier, break them down into two full techniques. So a full technique, the forearm low block, perform it in its full capacity. And then from here, the first thing we'll do is we'll straighten up. Rear heel comes off the floor, we lift up, and then we drop. Okay, so here, down, up, down, and remain full facing. Okay, it's very tempting to get your hips working with the rising block, but don't do that. Just from here, straighten up and down. With one breath. Down. And that's continuous motion. So that's really tricky. So what you generally tend to see is students will just, they'll kind of, maybe they'll block on the way up, or they don't complete these completely. So it's really important to remember, do that, 2 techniques, and then eventually perform them with 1 breath, accentuating each technique. So I hope that helps.